Hey YouTube, Saiclone here. Today I'm going to be doing a series of VoD reviews of the TSM versus Cloud9 semi-final series from a couple of weeks ago. And this review is brought to you by SkyCoach. So let's get into it. To start with, you're just going to see that TSM are running kind of like a 1-3-1 comp with interchangeable parts where either Vayne or Jace could be the second side lane. And C9 are doing a big ball comp. We've got Tarek Sona, which is pretty popular at the moment. And the idea of that bot lane is they kind of just want to scale. They don't have a huge amount of ability to control the wave early on. And so they're really just going to let it push into them and just try and scale super hard using Sona's Spell Thieves. And Tarek's going to get all the last hits with Relic Shield when he can. TSM are gonna probably look to just push all their lanes in because pretty much all of their lanes get priority before level 6, and they probably just want to look to keep track of Hecarim and maybe use the fact that they have the ability to push to invade him and keep track of him. You can see here that both the junglers are gonna jungle vertically. I don't really know if I like this because the amount of pressure TSM has, I think that they could have been further ahead if they didn't do this. But it does mean that the Vayne lane gets to free farm. Okay, so a few kills traded backwards and forwards. On the whole, that's better for Cloud9 mid lane, and bot lane obviously that benefits them as well. So pause here, so I'll just skip real quickly. So the big questions that each team has to ask themselves is, how are they gonna take towers mid and late game? So the thing about C9's comp is they have a lot of ways of doing damage to towers, but most of them don't work very well if TSM are there to defend the tower. Hecarim can do a lot of damage, especially if he builds a Triforce, but he's very short range and they don't have a reliable range AD, so they're going to struggle to take towers in any kinds of siege, which means that this game is really going to come down to, can Cloud9 get TSM to play around neutral objectives? Can they get them to move into areas that work for them? Because as you can see, if they get split up, TSM will just demolish them, like Akali just did to Poppy there. Unfortunately, Gragas just died on an invade, even though he had bot priority, just because Hecarim landed a great ult, and red team's bot lane were prepared to sacrifice some of the last hits under their tower so that they could do that, and that puts Hecarim pretty far ahead, so it's a big deal for him. But yeah, like I was saying, I think this game is really going to come down to whether TSM can play the game away from the neutral objectives, because those are going to be where C9's comp shines, and whether C9 can force TSM to group up on top of those. And the answer to that question is going to depend a lot on how strong the side and the side lanes for late game, so the solo lanes now of TSM are going into the mid game. So I would really like to see Gragas playing topside more and accelerating the solo lanes, because I think they're going to have a bigger impact on the game than the Vayne is. Even though the Vayne is scaling, I would be kind of treating her more like an insurance policy, and it seems like the Sona Taric is going to scale regardless, so I would be playing more topside, but we shall see. And great ults by Hecarim. So C9 are gonna pick up a dragon. What's kind of funny about this game is neither team wants to end laning phase too quickly, I think. You know, obviously, blue team has a couple pretty core items that they want to get on Akali and Vayne, and red team really don't want to have to do anything before Sona has kind of finished a couple of her items as well. Which means I think that's kind of part of the reason you're seeing a lot of emphasis just being put on ganking and invading the junglers rather than trying to do things that take towers quickly. So, because they're just trying to set themselves up for success later rather than trying to continue to win the game now. Gonna fast forward a bit. Oh. So now they're gonna pick a fight here. Wow. So unfortunately that went really poorly for TSM. And I think that's just a reflection of the amount of time C9 have been spending trying to make bot side work, and understanding that Poppy is not the win condition. It's the Zoe and the Sona and the Taric and the Hecarim, and he wants to play on the side of the map where there's good skirmishing. So I guess what I'm saying is the smart thing that C9 are doing here is not just that they're picking great fights, but that they're choosing to spend time on the side of the map that will be better fights for them. It's kind of a bit of a circular situation. So first turret's actually going to go down mid, and I think that's just a reflection of Zoe, both probably quite naturally is going to get pretty far ahead once she hits level 6. I think her poke is a bit stronger and more reliable than Jace's, and the amount of investment that Hecarim made mid early would have made that a lot easier. This is a big team fight here. Unfortunately, Sona wasn't there at the start. She was in base and she TP'd in later, which meant that once Hecarim went down that, she didn't have a lot of DPS available at all. So, however, that timing was pretty much opportune for Cloud9 because Sona has Archangels is finished but not transformed, and she has Sheen, so she actually does a lot of damage now. And ironically, even though C9 kind of lost that fight because TSM stayed on the map too long, C9 are going to pick up the dragon. Overall, C9 are in a reasonably good spot, although if TSM play around this Akali really well and kind of buy her the space that she needs to do her thing, they could definitely cause some problems. However, what I do not like, I'm just going to pause here for a second, is so TSM are grouping up to try and do a Rift Herald against the most insane teamfight comp you've ever seen. Now, you can make the argument that, okay, well, Hikram ult's down, maybe it's going to work. But personally, I'm not really a fan of this fight for several reasons. But the main one is just that this is kind of exactly what C9 wants. And I think that although TSM has decent teamfight, if they just stuck Akali in a side lane and waited for people to group up on her, then they could take these kinds of fights, but with a tempo and numbers advantage. And I think it would go a lot better for them. So, unfortunately for TSM, Sona is going to steal the Rift Herald, and then kill Gragas as well. So C9 come out of that feeling absolutely wonderful. And Rift Herald was one of the only ways that they can really take towers in the mid game, because they don't actually have a lot of ways of damaging it. But if you have a big purple crab, that'll do a lot of work. So that's personally, I think that's a big mistake on TSM's part, playing into one of their loss conditions. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even if the fight went well, maybe I'd be saying something differently, but I think TSM could have continued to pull back in the game and get their Akali further ahead, etc., without taking that risk. And I think that if you have an option that's more guaranteed, then that's a good one. So let's spec this up again. So with Baron up, TSM going to put Akali bottom. She's going to be in a pretty good spot to create some pressure. Unfortunately, it's just pressure that she's going to get stronger. It's not actually pressure on the inhibitor or anything, because there's still quite a few towers to take in that lane. But be that as it may, they're gonna have a chance to get some of that. Get some of that pressure, and so C9 are going to be stalling bot side while they try to regain control of the Baron pit. And what it looks like here is C9 actually going to try and start a fight. Now, unfortunately, even though C9 actually horrendously miss Sona and Hikram ults, it was a really, really well timed Terra cult that completely shut down TSM's initiation. So you're kind of starting to see the power of the Sona Terra comp turn on, and TSM are just not getting the time they need to set up these fights, and I think that that's primarily a product of the fact that I think they want they want Jace poking, and they want Akali to be more fed, and they want Poppy to be less of a frontline. So all things considered, I think that makes it pretty tough, because I think they're really dependent on their solo laners, even though Vayne hypothetically is the primary damage dealer. The other thing is, kind of looks like TSM are playing a bit scared or something, because they started that Baron and then walked off it with nobody anywhere near them. And I would say it would have been a stretch to go for it, but I think that they could have waited a bit longer to see how the timings would work out. You see, TSM are about to set up for Baron again after we get this the replay of this fight here. And so they've got vision on Baron, but the problem is that they keep giving up mid priority, and the reason they're giving up mid priority is because they're grouping up so that they can get control of Baron, rather than deploying to side lanes and then forcing C9 to split up and answer them, and then TSM grouping mid and getting mid priority. So yeah, I think it's definitely a mistake for them to be kind of beelining for Baron. So C9, on the other hand, doing Baron here, I really like them just starting it. We can slow it down because it just forces TSM to run in, and that's exactly what they want. Sona has really great turn. Zoe has the most incredible jungle control, and Tarek can see the fight coming from a mile away, so it's really easy for him to time his ult. So I think that's going to be about it. So I mean, I think TSM had a pretty good opportunity here, but much more dynamic play on the top side I think is what was needed, and they needed to treat Vayne like an insurance policy and actually accept that Tarek Sina just doesn't actually have that much pressure, except that it's going to scale. So you either need to really hard commit to putting it behind, or just say, actually, look, you scale, we scale, but we're going to demolish you on top side. And I think that would have been much more effective. So we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, guys. Again, this was brought to you by SkyCoach. Feel free to click any of the links in the description to check out the kind of coaching services that are on offer. And I'll see you guys for the next VoD soon. Cheers.